Welcome to the podcast, and today I'll be talking about our top 10 tips to stay focused and successful during the e-learning period. And I'd like to thank Mr. Saunders and Mr. English for being here.
No problem.
Would you guys like to introduce yourselves and the roles within our school?
Yeah, so I'm Mr. English from the senior school. I teach maths and a little bit of computer science, and I'm also the Year 7 mentor.
Hello, I'm Mr. Saunders. I am the Year 1 teacher, and I am Head of Sustainability and Global Citizenship for primary school.
Okay, now, Mr. Saunders, what are some of your tips for primary school to stay successful during e-learning?
Well, as a teacher, to be successful and have successful lessons, I feel like the number one for me anyway in teaching in general, but especially when teaching online, is to stay positive, and that's from teachers and pupils as well. That's a little bit more difficult when I'm dealing with 5 and 6 year olds, but I feel like at that age they copy what they see. So if I'm coming on the screen and I'm being positive, smiling, hopefully that's going to then radiate towards them guys, and then they start to feel a bit more positive, a bit more happy about the situation they find themselves in, and have a happier lesson. And then with you being positive, you've got to make sure that as a teacher you're bringing your A game to every lesson. You can't just rock up and go, well, what are we doing today? I'm not really sure. You've got to be well organised. You've got to be prepared for each of your lessons, just so they can run smoothly, and which will then help the children to achieve more and be successful in that lesson, because if you're organised and you know what you're doing, you've got clear targets, clear outcomes, and then the children will be have much more chance for being successful in that lesson. I suppose as well to make sure we're being successful. Again, as a teacher, you've got to know, especially when I'm dealing with such the young age, you've got to know when to push them, when not to push them. You've got to have a bit of empathy with these children. You don't know what's happening, around them on the screen. You don't know what they've just done 5 minutes ago. They might be a bit tired. They might, got in trouble. They might have just had to go out and do a test, which is not very pleasing for them. We're not aware of what's just happened, but they've come on screen. So you've got to know, okay, I've got to pick my battles. Should I really tell someone off here? Do I need to push them as hard as I can, or do I need to ease off and just allow them to be happy during that lesson? Because I suppose their well-being is probably really important at the moment. So you've got to have a bit of empathy. You've got to be smart in when you are teaching these children, especially for such a young age. And I'm sure Mr. English will agree with that. Teenagers are probably just the same when dealing with those types of issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with a lot of what Mr. Saunders has said. Lots of parallels, I'd say, with the senior school. So yeah, expectations are hard. So I think that it's so important for teachers to have high expectations of their students, and also for students to have high expectations for themselves. But there's definitely, a lot going on at the moment. People need to be patient. Well-being, like Mr. Saunders said, is playing such a huge part for teachers and students at the moment. Internet issues, things like that. And I think all of that, people just need to have a bit more, not lower expectations, but just a lot more consideration. So take into consideration that people are having difficulty at the moment, and it's not as easy to access things online sometimes. So I think it's kind of a mixture of keeping those expectations high, but also being considerate and being patient with students. That's really important. So definitely agree with what Mr. Saunders said there. And then I'd say for the senior school in particular, so organisation, I would say, is a big thing to focus on, not just for teachers, but also for students in particular. So I've noticed that a lot of the students, particularly maybe Key Stage 3, so some of the younger students, have found being organised online quite difficult. So they might be forgetting to upload their work, or they might be forgetting homeworks online, things like that. I'm not sure, Mr. Saunders, do the primary school students, do they upload work onto Teams using assignments, or is it a little bit different?
We use an app called Seesaw. So again,
Oh, Seesaw.
it's where they upload their work. But it's, they've got to be organised. They've got to know, we have deadlines, and if they miss one lesson, that's going to have a knock-on effect to the other lessons because they won't be able to use the previous and prior knowledge to that. So, just like you're saying, Mr. They have to be organised and trying to keep up with deadlines as much as possible. And then it's that communication with the teachers, being honest, look, I've missed this lesson. What do I need to do to ensure that I'm going to be successful for the rest of the week? And again, that goes, and the teacher then needs to go, okay, this is how you can be successful. I understand X, Y, and Z has happened, but let's try to do this and let's try and do that. One of the problems I have in year one is children rocking up to their lessons without their books. So I go, come on, you've got to at least turn up with the the resources you need to be successful. That's a book and a pencil. So if we're not doing that, then we're going to delay for 5 minutes. That's going to delay the lesson as well. So again, I completely agree with Mr. English that, organisation, I always say to my children, organisation is the key to success. If you're organised and you're rocking up to lessons organised, then you're going to have a much better chance of being successful.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on organisation. Especially as an IB student, I know myself, I've struggled with my deadlines. I know it's very easy to think, okay, it's online, you can upload it whenever you want, like in your own time. But also it's very easy to forget that you need to do this action of handing in your work and maybe taking a picture or a screenshot, because it's that easy to forget, which means it's that important to remember to upload your work.
Yeah, I think because you won't meet a more forgetful man than myself. I literally forget everything. And that is just in life in general, teaching in school, teaching out school. I have to make sure that I write everything down on a piece of, I'm old school. I can't have it on a calendar, on a laptop or on my phone. I need pen, paper. I need to write a list. Right, Mr. Saunders, on Monday you have a podcast with Curtis. Otherwise, if I hadn't written that down, I've gone, and it comes to it, and go, I've forgotten. Or this week, you need to make sure that X, Y, and Z has done. And even at my age now, I'm getting worse. I need to make sure that I am writing things down constantly. And that's what I try to say to my students, what's happening today? What's happening tomorrow? Okay, let's prepare for that. Let's write that down. Let's get memos down. What time do you need to be back on for this lesson? I need to be back at 12:30. Write it down quickly now, and then they can see that. So as you're saying, it's easy to be forgetful when there's so many things happening all at once.
It's funny that you mentioned writing things down. I've actually not got any pens. My last pen ran out. I'm not been able to get any new ones, so I've had to adapt a little bit. But it's actually made me learn some new skills. So I'm using things like the Microsoft listing. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but there's loads of online apps. You can make lists online. I set a lot of reminders on my phone as well. So if you don't like writing things down, you can still be organised using technology, which I think has been really useful.
Yeah, I know myself. During lunch, sometimes I set an alarm 5 minutes before period 5, just so I remind myself to hurry up eating or stop eating and give myself that time to actually get ready for learning.
Yeah.
And I know myself, I'm still using my planner to remember my timetable, to write down my homework, just to keep myself organized and up to date. And it's very nice to see that, especially with ripping out the corner of our planners, to see that we're only a few weeks away from summer holiday. And that in itself is highly motivating to keep going for me.
What a great tip, Curtis. Yeah, I like that. A bit of a countdown now. So we're not entirely sure when the lockdown's going to end, but at least we know that summer holidays is around the corner.
Keeps you motivated to keep going.
So I've got another tip actually in terms of being successful, and I think it applies to teachers and students, and that is asking questions. So at the moment, maybe it's different in the primary school, but but my students, a lot of them are quite quiet now. Even the ones I know are very confident, they can be really quiet in the Teams calls. And if they don't understand something, they tend not to ask. And it only comes across later on that they've actually not understood something.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for students to ask questions if they're not sure, or just ask any questions in the lesson and not be so afraid to unmute themselves or to type in the chat. Your teachers really appreciate that. I'm sure Mrs. Saunders would agree, but there's nothing worse than a teacher having feeling like they're talking to a group of people and not getting much response. So I think that the more questions you ask as a student, the better. And also teachers asking students questions is a really great way online to test if something's been understood. So I think questions can be really good in this e-learning environment.
They could have resources in school. They could have, any concrete material to help them show me their AFL learning. But when they're behind the screen, it's almost impossible to do that. And, even just having their cameras on, is a challenge in itself. So it's ensuring that before I start my lesson, right, cameras are on, say good morning, put your hand up, click the reaction button, and then I know which children are not ready to start the lesson. So making sure that the lessons are interactive as possible, because at the start it's, hi guys, anybody there? Question? Hello? No? Tumbleweed?
Yeah.
So,
signs of life.
I definitely, and did you know that, if I say, Bill, did you know that, Bill? He goes, yeah. So why didn't you tell me? Come on, help me out,
Yeah, I can echo that, especially as a student. It's really weird. It's like online, I'm at the start, especially, I was like, I don't want to ask any questions. I'm worried that I'm going to be judged. However, put me in the exact same situation in a lesson, and I will ask that question confidently out loud. I don't care how it comes, how stupid the question. I would ask it in lesson. But then online, I'm like, no.
But even like as adults, when you're meeting as teachers in meetings, sometimes you're sitting there and you're going, guys, come on, we're in a meeting here. Could someone else say something? And you have to, so even teachers, when you're leading a meeting, you've got to make sure, you're being engaged in that meeting, because, that other person leading the meeting is just feeling like, come on, guys, help me out. Like, someone please say something. So, I think you're right. I think we're all getting a bit more confident and improving in that, okay, we're online, but I'm just going to say it anyway, and that's fine.
And now I'm conscious of time, and I want you guys to have some lunch of your own and set your own alarms before period 5.
Yeah.
So I would like
again
to say thank you for giving your time for this podcast today.
Oh, my pleasure.
No problem. Yeah, thanks for the questions, too. It's been nice to speak to you both.
And I will be talking to Miss Yang now about how we can stay positive and focused during our online learning. Hello, Miss Yang.
So, hi, everybody. This is Alex Yang. I'm the social and emotional counselor in Dulwich, and my role is to support our students and staff about their well-being in general. So today I'm very glad and very pleasured to be invited to this podcast to talk about how we can stay positive during online learning and lockdown.
So, Ms. Yang, what are your 10 tips for staying focused and successful during e-learning and this lockdown period?
Yeah, that's a really tough question to answer, sorry. But my understanding of like doing online learning and, working from home and just being locked down at a small apartment or even in your bedroom, it could be extremely challenging for anyone psychologically. So I think the main thing I wanted to talk about is to be realistic with yourself and not setting unrealistic expectations during this time. So I would rather we are not thinking about how you can be amazing and super successful during this time or like even be super productive. It's more about how to manage your own well-being, like physically, psychologically, to start with that first.
Yeah, that reminds me of our asynchronous lessons that we have in senior school and focusing on our well-being, because it gives us that opportunity to go at our own pace, and we can always message the teacher if we need help on a certain topic that we're not too confident to ask in front of everybody, because online it is harder to publicly ask for help, even though if we're in a class all together it'd be fine. And I know I've personally experienced that. But also in our asynchronous lessons, it allows us to take that hour in the day if we're thinking, you know what, I just need some time to relax, and I have the opportunity to do this work later today. It gives us that freedom to focus on ourselves.
Absolutely. So, when we talk about the tips to how to, sort of maintain yourself or maintain sanity, like I think stuff on very basic stuff, it would be like, make sure that you drink enough water, which is exactly what Curtis is doing. That's amazing. Drinking enough water, make sure that you are hydrated, because sometimes when we are at home, we tend to forget because we are not exercised as much. But summer is coming, and when you're dehydrated, your body flow is not gonna be able to produce the same, because you're gonna have like migraine, you're gonna have headache, which is gonna affect you. So that's just a very basic tiny baby step, but it actually plays a critical part. Same as like what you eat, what you're snacking.
From my understanding, a lot of people